Welcome to Taboo. I'm your host, Dr. Keisha Powell. On this podcast, we will have courageous conversations based on how people use their pain and turn it into passion along with their walk with God. Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Taboo. Today we have two wonderful leaders from Artist Haven Media joining us today, Chris St. John and Ryan Carson. I have known these gentlemen for a while. In fact, they are the magicians behind the podcast Taboo. They've been my marketing team for 5 years now. 5 years? Is it 5 going on 6? And I have to tell you, there's so many people that these two gentlemen, in terms of touching other people's lives and the work that they do, it's just absolutely amazing. So without further ado, I want to welcome Ryan and Chris onto the show today to talk about their journey and how they turn their pain into passion. Welcome, guys.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Oh, it's such an honor, such an honor. And I can tell you, folks, today is going to be one of those very fun, heartwarming, get ready to have a lot of laughs. I'll begin with the first question, and I'll just throw it out there. Can you tell the audience about yourself, namely who you are and what you do?
Chris, you want to take that one first?
Sure. My name is Chris. I have been a musician my whole life. Since I was 8 years old, I started playing guitar, was in a number of bands, and then over the years just kind of morphed into recording for bands and doing live sound for bands, just trying to help the music scene any way I can, I guess.
And I'm Ryan Carson. So I'm a former special ed teacher, have a background in marketing, and that's what kind of started Artist Haven Media. I got Chris on board to help out with that. But also, Chris and I are cousins, so we've known each other pretty much our whole lives. So yeah, we're excited to have a family-owned, operated company, as well as we started a band together called Waiting for London. I sing and play guitar and piano.
Multitasker.
Yeah.
So how did your journey begin, and when did you turn your pain into passion?
Well, like I said, I started playing guitar when I was about 8 years old. Had somewhat of a rough childhood, as Ryan would know. Same family and all. So yeah, I turned that into learning guitar, which I played for a couple years and didn't really get anywhere. And when I was 15, I asked for my first bass, and that's when things kind of took off for me. Was much better at playing bass than guitar. That's where I am now.
And I've heard your music, and it's just absolutely amazing. Very talented, absolutely talented. But I think Chris forgot something else, folks. Chris is also the production manager for Taboo. And when I tell you the work that he does, it's not only for the podcast. Chris has done a lot of audio engineering stuff for other people, for companies, I don't even know how to explain it, but he would be best to explain this. Could you give us a little bit of that background as well?
Yeah, I've made a couple of audio commercials for several businesses that we've put in our podcast that we produced ourselves called Walking in Your Shoes. I also engineered that as well.
Very multi-talented. Right? How did
the Battle of the Bands.
Oh, please tell us some more about the Battle of the Bands. What's that about?
That was a live sound event, so I had to, set up the speakers and run the cabling and tape everything down so nobody tripped. And then while the bands are playing, I have to make sure that I boost the frequencies that make them sound good, like the high ends or mids or the lows and whatnot, and make everything sound good.
That is extremely technical.
Didn't want to go too hard onto that.
I wouldn't just say you're talented, Chris, but you have a gift. And it's such an honor to be able to say this, because a lot of times when I ask people to talk about themselves, they don't necessarily talk about all their gifts, but man, you're a blessing. You're a blessing. And it's so cool to be interviewing you. And Ryan, how did you take you're welcome. How did you turn your pain into passion?
I'd say similar to Chris, it started in teenage years with that typical teenage angst. And Chris chuckles at that. But anyway, basically started playing guitar guitar and piano, and music is such a powerful universal language that it just felt natural I wanted to write songs to get feelings out. And it felt good to do that. And I saw it as, you know what, I'd like to help others with that as well. So just started writing songs. It was easier to get it out that way rather than just simply talking. So yeah, did that for a while. I've been in numerous bands as well, similar to Chris. And then let's see, even with like more recently with like our grandmother passing, used music to assist with that, trying to with grief and whatnot. Music is so powerful.
It is powerful. But you also took music to a different level in creating Artist Haven Media. How did Artist Haven Media, well, how was it born?
Oh, good
When
question.
was it born?
It was born a long time ago when I was in college. And basically it started out as just a college project. Originally, I wanted to form a booking / management company for bands. And so it actually started out as Orange Haven Music, but then it morphed into Artist Haven Media just because our grandmother, she was a Tai Chi instructor, and she was the one who was asking, oh, can you come film me teach this class? Can you make a brochure? Can you make a flyer and make a website? And it just morphed into, okay, we're doing all this for her. Perhaps we could do this for other people too. So she kind of helped spark that idea of maybe we can turn this into a real business, not just an idea.
And now looking back as well between your music, Artist Haven Media, at what point was there the pain, and at what point did you just say enough?
Well, a couple instances of pain and saying that's enough. I mean, there's been times, I don't know if I want to get too deep into this. Keisha, you may be able to relate.
We're inspiring. Listen, the Taboo is about courageous conversations, and we're inspiring other people out there, and the listeners want to know. And you know, the one thing I want to say is, for me, both of you have been inspirational for me, and I want to share this story so that before we go back to you, because I think it's important for listeners to hear this. It was 2020, and I decided I'm leaving my current position. I didn't want to be in a discriminatory environment anymore, and it just so happened that Ryan and I worked in the same organization, and we were both going through some very difficult stuff. And so when he told me that he did marketing, and at the time I was thinking of creating my own business, I wasn't quite sure what road I was going to take, because I did the business before, but I never paid attention to it, so it suffered. So fast forward to 2020, and I'm like, I'm ready to do this. And I reached out to Ryan, and he said, sure, let's do this. But what I did not anticipate was how encouraging he was and how inspiring he was. And through Ryan, I met Chris. And then they took it to a whole different level. And I never forgot, it was June 2020. I decided, okay, I'm going to do this. And Ryan stayed up with me until midnight and said, just before the clock strikes midnight, you're going to hit the button and you're going to make your website go live. And I remember him doing the countdown. And as soon as he was close to one, I'm like, wait. He's like, Keisha, just hit the button, press the button. And when I did, my whole life changed. I never realized that Powell Therapy Solutions would have, and still is, taking a life of its own. But not only that, I got to meet great people along the way. And for me, both Ryan and Chris, even now with this podcast and the people we want to reach and the people we continue to want, in terms of serving, it wouldn't have been possible. And so I want the listeners to hear this, that there are possibilities in life, and every possibility is a solid promise. And it's a promise that God has given us to not be afraid of gifts that we're given. And that's what Taboo is about. So I wanted to share that, because for me, you helped me to take that pain and move it into a passion I never dreamed of. And you saw more. And I hope that listeners out there will reach out to Artist Haven Media. I mean, if you're thinking of doing a business, if you're in the music industry, if you're an author, if you're looking for a marketing team, or you want to start your own podcast, these are the people to talk to.
Well, thank you, Keisha. It's greatly appreciated.
You're welcome.
We say you're our number one client.
I
No,
better be.
you're our longest standing client.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Well,
But
that's because of the great work you do,
yeah,
guys. I mean, you really put in the love in what you're doing, the heart in what you're doing. There are so many people out there who encourage people to do things, but then they leave them high and dry. And I mean, for me, I'm very grateful and I'm thankful to God to know you guys because we've gone through a couple of journeys. I'm telling you, we're still traveling through them. Would you change anything if you could?
No, not at all. As you know, I have two young kids, 7 and 8, and I wouldn't have them if I had done anything different in my life.
Mm.
So I am thankful for them every day, and I've obviously been asked this question before in other contexts, and I think I've always had the same answer, at least for the past 8 years.
Mm. And they are so adorable.
Thank you. They are.
Ryan, would you change anything if you could?
no, I wouldn't. Just because the path that we took, it led us here. I always go back to a saying that my grandmother or our grandmother used to say that, even our enemies can be our friends because they push us in the right direction. So even if, a door is shut, that's okay. It's going to push you to a door that's going to be open. So no, I wouldn't change anything.
That's very powerful. Even our enemies, our enemies are our friends.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so going back to your previous question, that's what kind of led me to think about what if RShaven Media could be a career path rather than being stuck in jobs where I couldn't move forward, or you kind of get pigeonholed, or you just something just didn't feel right in previous jobs that I had. So after our grandmother passed, that's really what made me go back to think about, okay, maybe these doors are closing or I can't advance for a reason. Maybe we have to go to a door that's open, and RShaven Media truly began.
I like how you said that because sometimes, like, was it last night? Last night, yes, I was praying because there were things that were really upsetting to me this week. And sometimes I call it the tunnel syndrome, where you start to think about one thing that's upsetting, and then a myriad of things that happened way in the past starts to add, it's like magnet. It just starts, and it has that tunnel effect. And you don't realize it, and you start feeling hurt, and you're giving power to it. And so I was praying over it and just saying, God, I don't know what's going on. I don't even know why I'm so angry and hurt. But then I realized I had to tap into it to identify what was triggering it. And it was a trigger of betrayal. And I had to, sometimes I don't always, it's our innate ability to say, I don't have time to deal with this. So I'm just going to brush it off. But then it still adds up like a festering sore. And so I prayed about it. And what came to me was learning to let go of hurt. Letting go of hurt. And I started to look up the Bible verses that were connected to letting go of hurt, because hurt comes in many forms. So when you said, what your grandmother said was very powerful about your friends, your enemies, thank them because they become your friends. They don't realize it's not that they're your literal friends, but the things that people do to you. Sometimes some people may not necessarily use it to push them forward. I usually do when someone says something negative to me or treats me in a harmful way. Yes, I feel hurt. I'm human, but I don't dwell into it. Like yesterday, I move on, and I don't want it to become a tunnel. And so that was very powerful. That really was powerful. And I hope listeners, you're out there hearing this, because it's easy to get angry about stuff, but go in a quiet space, sit in the silence, and think about, what is it that's hurting me? How do I let this hurt go? And what do I do next? I always say, you can either say to the person, you made me feel, but if you realize it's not a person who really cares and they're narcissistic about it, and you pray for them and you release them to God, because guess what? There is no one who can tell you that you cannot be who you are. And Ryan and Chris and myself are a perfect example of that. There were many people who said, are you crazy? You're going to start a business in 2020? Uh-huh. And I'm still in it and I'm happy about it. And I'm grateful to God for his blessings. And I can't wait to see what the next 5 years will hold. So on that note, I also wanted to ask what is next for you?
As Ryan said, we are in a band together. We're hoping to get that a little more off the ground. It's kind of hard to juggle a band and a business at the same time. You kind of have to treat a band like a business if you really want to get anywhere with it. So it's just kind of like running two businesses at once, really. But hopefully by the end of this year, in the middle of next year, we can start working on that more.
I hope so, because I love your music.
Yeah, we're hoping to we actually have a whole unreleased acoustic album that we're still working on, at least somewhat soon. And then let's see, as for the podcast, there could be a season 3 in the works. If
Nice.
listeners haven't already listened to it, it's Walking in Your Shoes. Keisha is a guest on it as well. Make sure to check that out. And then as for Artist Haven Media, we're just going to keep moving forward, see where it takes us.
That's what I'm looking forward to. Right now, I know that Artist Haven Media is exploding. Your music is wonderful. And you guys were even on what magazine was it for your music that you were featured in?
It's been a number of years since we were featured in anything.
I don't remember.
It was Audio Addiction?
But it was a big deal. I remember it. I remember it very well. It was such a big deal. It's your album. Waiting for London has produced some really, really good sounds. Please listen to them on Spotify. If you haven't heard of them already, you're hearing now on Taboo. Check them out. It's just amazing. Really, really good music. What advice would you give to our listeners to empower them in turning their pain into passion?
Like Ryan said, it's a lot about constantly moving forward and always working on stuff, but also remembering that you don't always have to be doing something. You can take a break and rest. And I know it sounds simple, but I know a lot of people who don't understand that sometimes you need to just take a minute and not do anything, at least not do anything related to your like main project, just to clear your head and get the fog out of the way so you can move forward.
That's very true. Very good advice.
Yeah, and similar to Chris, I mean, we always have the same mantra that we say to ourselves to always keep moving forward. And we basically remind each other that weekly. Oh, we're still moving forward. A quote that I've always lived by as well is by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I actually pulled it up. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving. And I've always found that just so powerful that it doesn't matter. Even if you're just taking a step each day, that's still one step closer to where you want to be. So it's important to keep moving forward.
Keep moving forward and taking time.
I always like this question because the way I think about it, the quote I use is actually from Finding Nemo. It's where Dory says, just keep swimming.
Yeah.
That's something I repeat to myself all the time. It really helps.
Oh, that's the thing. I always tell everyone, words are powerful. And keep swimming, keep moving, keep going, keep striving, don't give up. Those are very powerful words. I've always used, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Even when I feel like in my lowest of lowest moments, I'm like, God, I need this. I can't do this without you. My cup is full. And words are powerful. A friend of mine recently said to me, you can use words to empower yourself, or you can use words to curse yourself. And so I said, please explain. And she said, well, look at it this way. If you say to yourself, it doesn't make sense I say something to them because they're not going to do it anyway, you're cursing yourself before you even give yourself a shot. And I want listeners to really hear this, because many times I'll say to people, you're really doing well at this. No, I'm not. Or you're really awesome, or you're a leader. And they'll say, I don't think I am. If you keep speaking these things into yourself, you're never going to move. You're never going to lift yourself, because God does give us, all of us are born with a purpose. We may not know what our purpose is because we are evolving. I'm still evolving. You're still evolving. So we need to be aware and mindful of that. And so, again, two very powerful men. Thank you, Chris and Ryan. Keep moving and keep swimming. These are words we need to keep going. We need to keep going. We can't stop. We can't sit still. You can cry. It's okay to cry. And it's okay to feel sorry and get through the hurt and the pain because you have to. But use that pain to fuel your purpose. Use that pain, get on your knees and say, God, just hold my hand. And don't be afraid to talk to someone. Again, if you are feeling that you're alone and you can't do it, reach out to PauloTherapySolutions.com. Our website is there. Just reach out or email us at PauloTherapySolutions@gmail.com. Taboo is more than just a podcast. We want to get the message out there, about positivity, leaning on God, knowing that you're worth it, knowing that you're loved, knowing that you're not alone. And I pray for each and every one of the listeners out there today, as well as I'm praying for both Ryan and Chris to see that other acoustic album coming to life and to hear more great things about Artist Haven Media. I cannot thank you guys enough. Thank you so much for being on Taboo and for blessing us today and for inspiring so many listeners out there today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for
anything else you want to impart before we say goodbye?
Listen to Waiting for London and Walking in Your Shoes, both on Spotify, wherever you get podcasts and music.
And Waiting for London can be found on all music platforms, including, Amazon, iTunes, everywhere. So the podcast, as Chris mentioned, it's anywhere you can listen to podcasts. So check out Waiting for London. We're an original pop rock band located in Connecticut. And Walking in Your Shoes, the podcast. We have 2 seasons out. Make sure to check it out.
And if you're a business, you can check out artisthavenmedia.com.
I'm telling you, didn't I tell you guys how awesome they are? Again, thank you for tuning in to Taboo. I almost said Walking in Your Shoes.
I almost said that too, in all honesty. I was like, welcome back to Walking in Your Shoes. Oh, wait, no. Thanks again for listening.
There you go.
Thank you guys for tuning into Taboo, where we continue to have courageous conversation about turning your pain into passion. And please remember that you are not alone and you are loved. I am your host, Dr. Keisha Powell. Once again, take care. Thanks again for joining us on Taboo. Tune in next week for another invigorating episode when we speak with another expert. Turn their pain into passion. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Keisha Powell. Contact us at www.paulotherapysolutions.com or join us on Facebook at Taboo From Pain to Passion. Remember, you're loved.
This is a production of Artist Haven Media.